What's up, mamas? I'm Rebecca. You're watching the Reseller Mom Show. Thanks for joining me today for a video all about inventory audits. So this year was my easiest and my fastest inventory audit yet. And if you're not sure what I mean, I will tell you all what that means. In this video, I'm going to share my 4 easy steps to conducting an inventory audit. And I'm going to ask you to stay tuned till the end so I can share with you my lesson learned and what I'm changing and doing differently to make next year even easier. So I've been a reseller for, I guess, 3.5 years. Is that right? Geo's 4, 3.5 years. And I've done an inventory audit now for 3 years. And each time I've gotten better at it. So this is where the tips come in. So basically, the idea is that you want to check what you actually have in your inventory, the actual items that you have. You want to check that against what's listed. And if you're on multiple platforms, then you want to make sure that all the platforms are the same. And if you have an inventory spreadsheet, you want to make sure that your inventory spreadsheet matches your platform's listings, matches what you actually have when you go to your bins. So you want to make sure that everything's listed and that nothing is there but not listed, and nothing is listed but not there. You want to make sure that all of those things match and line up. Also, if you are paying taxes, which you should, you need to have a count of your inventory so that you can have a total value of your inventory. And I'm not going to get into tax things. You need to check with your CPA about it. But for me and my CPA, we have a system. We figured out what, will work. And so that's what I follow. And so I need a physical count of all my items so that I can then determine the value of my inventory. It is a total pain in the neck to do it. It is quite a pain in the neck. But like I said, over the last 3 years, I've gotten it to where it's easier and less time consuming. And so that's why I'm ready to share all of my tips in the video. So this year, like I said, was the easiest and the fastest. I'm looking at notes here. I hope you don't mind, but I didn't want to forget anything. And I really just wanted to make sure that I give you all the good information. So I have about 2,000 physical items. I have a storage unit. I work with a virtual assistant, and for quite some time I have worked with a photographer. So some of the issues that I'm facing when I do my inventory audit are going to be different from you if you don't have all of those elements in your business. So if you don't have a storage unit, you don't have to go somewhere else. You can go to your garage, go to your spare room, go to your basement, and pull out all your stuff. I have to physically go to the storage unit. I need to be kid-free when I'm doing it. I have to bring some supplies with me since it's not in my home. And I also don't have internet connection when I'm there to check my listings. I can check them on my phone, but that's hard, so I can't bring my computer, I guess is what I should say. Also, I have a virtual assistant that does my listings for me, and I have a photographer, not going forward, but I did, that was doing my photography, keywording, and item packing up, so she would be in charge of assigning the item numbers, and then the VA in the listing process was recording everything into the spreadsheet and listing it on platforms using those inventory numbers. So because it left me and went to a photographer, and then it left her and went to a VA, and it's at the storage unit, there's like multiple spots and opportunities for giant breakdowns to occur. They do all the time. Now that I am not working with the photographer anymore for a little bit of time, it's going to be me and then the VA. And so I think that will cut down on a lot of issues. The VA has her own set of challenges that I'll talk about. So this year, it took me about 4 hours to complete the inventory, which is way down from like 2 days when I first started doing it, and I only ended up with one IKEA bag full of items that were not listed. And we'll talk about how that happens. But basically, if an item gets photographed and sent to the virtual assistant, but for some reason she never lists it, or the photograph, the photos don't make it to the VA for some reason, so there's a breakdown with the photographer. Whatever happens, some items just are physically here. I bought them, they're in inventory, but they never got listed. So that's wasted money on the table. So that's one reason why you want to do your inventory and catch all of those things that aren't listed so you can get them up and making money. They can't sell if they're not listed. Also, there are a lot of, I had 4 IKEA bags, which is the bad part. I still had 4 IKEA bags full of items that had one sort of issue or another that needed to get resolved. it wasn't on my spreadsheet, but I found it in inventory, so I don't know if it's listed. It's listed, but it's under the wrong number. Like, several kinds of problems. So I'm going to get into the 4 tips now and share with you a little bit about what I would recommend for you if you're going through this process. And then at the end, I will tell you what I'm changing about this based on the lessons that I've learned and what I'm going to do in the future that I think will make it even easier next year. So the first tip is to plan ahead. Plan what you're going to need, when you're going to do it, how long it might take you. Make sure you have kid plans if you want to be kid-free when you're doing it. Block out enough time. Do you need help with it? And how you're going to check your items, like against what. So basically what you will need. For me, I needed like a highlighter, I needed a table, I needed a chair, and I needed time away from Geo to sit and focus at the storage unit. For you, you might be able to knock out inventory in little bits and pieces if you have all of your items in your house. You can do a bin here, a bin there, whatever. You may not need to be kid-free. You may not need an extra table or chair because it's in your home and you can sit on your floor or what, I don't know. But for me, I needed those supplies. I also need my item spreadsheet. So I have a spreadsheet, that's my inventory spreadsheet that my virtual assistant keeps up for me. Basically, when an item is being listed, we're adding items to the inventory spreadsheet, which is in Google Sheets, so that she and I can share back and forth. And it has the item number, it has the date it was listed, the source, like what folder it was from, photos-wise, what's the title of it, the link to it on Poshmark, the link to it on eBay, the link to it on Mercari, so that we have all of those listing information there. When it sells, she marks it. She marks what platform it's sold on, and then it calculates how many days it was available for. And then we have like a notes section and some other things that are in this spreadsheet. Now, if you don't have an item spreadsheet, that's okay. If you do have an item spreadsheet, you want to be able to print that out so that you have something to cross-check your bin with. So if you keep your bins in some sort of inventory system that's like letters and numbers, you want to sort your spreadsheet by, letters and numbers, by your item number, so that you can cross-check it and go bin by bin. And yeah, so you want to be able to determine what you're going to check your items against. So if you pull out a bin and you want to check that everything in here is listed, what are you going to check it against? Is it a spreadsheet? If you don't keep a spreadsheet, that's okay. You need to check it against your actual listings. So for me, I do like to print that out because I like to physically check it off with a highlighter. And because I do have a spreadsheet, that's the easiest way. But if you don't, I would say you probably would want to do maybe screenshots of your closet. So like if you went on your computer and pulled up your closet and took screenshots of every so many items and then printed out those screenshots, you'd have a printed record with all the pictures of your listings that you could cross-check against your bins. That's the only way I can think of it. You might have another way. I mean, I guess you could do it actually by your phone, but I feel like there's no way to actually keep track of what you went through. And especially if you have to start and stop, your phone, the items will move, or you might share something in the meantime or forget where you left off. So for me, I like a printed copy that I can physically check off. So for your business, in planning ahead, you would need to determine what you're going to cross-check your items against. I think that's a big one. The next step is to prepare. So once you actually have figured out what you're going to do, now it's the time to start to get ready. So I got my chair, I got my table, I got my highlighter, I printed out my spreadsheet, I got a clipboard, I got extra IKEA bags to have ready so I can sort out the items that have one issue or another. And for me, that's all the preparation I really needed to do. One note I will make is that I changed my inventory system a few times. And if you don't know what my new and current inventory system is, which I think is the best inventory system, and that's what I titled my video, or maybe I didn't title it that, but my thumbnail said like best inventory system ever. Look on my channel for that video, because I've moved to a chronological numerical system. So I'm no longer doing letters and numbers, A bin 1 through 20, B bin 1 through 20. I'm not doing that anymore. I have some of them still, things that I decided to keep. And so I have some of those, but I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'm doing 1 through 1,000, 1,000 to 2,000, and they're just sets of 25 in numbers, and I just keep adding to the end, and then I condense the bins down. And so eventually I won't have any bins at the beginning as all of those sell off. I'll only have the ones later. Then I can always go back again, but I'm not reusing numbers. I'm just using labels and adding bins to the end. So that's confusing to you. Again, check out that inventory system where I explain it a little bit more. The reason why I'm telling you that is because it's a lot easier to just go through checking off numbers than the letters I found. I feel like with A1, B2, C3, letters can get misinterpreted. There can be typos in those letters. Just making sure that you have like your bins filled up. Did I use A20 or do I have, A20 still left to use and it's not being used currently? Like I just felt like there was a lot of craziness that went along with that system when it came to doing inventory and making sure that all of your numbers were being utilized, that your bins were full. It was just crazy. So I feel like the number system chronologically made the inventory process faster. Hope that's not too confusing. Again, it would make more sense if you watched the other video. So just make sure that you are prepared, you print everything out, you're ready. So now it's inventory day and you're going to conduct your audit. Basically, you pull out a bin, you go through the bin and pull out one item at a time, and you cross-check it against your list or your listings on the computer or your spreadsheet or whatever you're cross-checking it against. And you're saying, I have this item, number 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 is on the list. It's listed. Great. Check it off. Move on. Now this is number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 on my list. Let's check it off and move on. Then you get to the end and you find that you have 1, 3, 5. But 1, 3, 5 is not on your list. It's not in your listings. You have no record of it. You just have a physical item. That means it's not listed. And so you pull it out and you put it to the side. Then you might have your record that says you should have 1, 2, 5, but there's no 1, 2, 5 here in the bin. It's missing. So now you have to highlight that a different color and go back to it later. So that's basically the process. You're just cross-checking to make sure everything that is physically in your bin is on your list and everything that's on your list is physically in your bin, and that the numbers match or the letters match or whatever system you're using matches. And then you'll go back to those things at the end. And so you do that for all of your bins, and that's obviously the time-consuming part. And you also want to have a count. I would do the cross-check part, and then before I put them all back in the bin, I would count them and then just mark it down. So I had a list of numbers running on the side plus my cross-check list. So you go through all your bins. And once that's done, you should have a count of how many items are in your inventory, and that's what you can use to figure out your tax purposes. So that's that. But then you're going to have a list with all these things crossed off. That means they're good. And then you're going to have some highlights, which meant that they were not located in your bin. And it's highlighted. And then you're going to have a pile of items that are here, but they're not on your list. And so those are the things that you need to resolve. And that's the final step of the inventory audit process. And that can be the most time-consuming process if you end up with a lot. The goal is to try to end up with as few of those as possible. So like this year, I ended up with 4 IKEA bags full of issues that had to get switched and fixed and whatever, and 1 bag full of items that were not listed, which is down from a prior year, so that's good. But I still had a lot of errors and issues, and I'll just kind of talk really quickly about what kind of issues those were. You may not have these again, but if you do use a VA or if you do have a photographer or one or the other, you may run into these issues. And that is, item numbers were wrong. And so the item would say 2637 on the item. But here on the list, there was no 2637, or there was another 2637. But it said over here 2627 or whatever I'm talking about. Like one number was off. And that meant that the photographer took the picture of it with the item number, but the VA transposed the numbers somehow on the list. That's a problem. I have to talk to my VA about that. She's done that a lot. And so if I were looking for that, I wouldn't find it. Or we would think it's not here, or several scenarios could happen. It's time consuming. It's a pain in the neck. I need to cut down on that and have a talk with her about being careful with the numbers. You could do it yourself. You could transpose the numbers. So, I mean, this problem could come up. It's just more so for me because I have other people involved. The system can break down in more spots. If it's just you, maybe there's some more continuity. But you could transpose the numbers wrong too. Then I found ones that the title had the right number, but the description had the wrong number, but the spreadsheet had the wrong number. Like, there were just so many issues of transposed numbers that it threw everything off, and I was very disappointed. So that's a separate issue that I need to deal with my VA about. Then there were the ones that were just not listed, and then there were the ones that were listed but not here. So you have to clean all of that up, go into your Poshmark, go into your eBay, look it up, delete listings that maybe if you're a multi-platform seller, the problem could be that it's sold on Poshmark, but you never deleted it from eBay. The problem could be that it's sold on eBay, you never deleted it from Poshmark. The problem could be that you just took it out of inventory, sold it to a friend, got rid of it, donated it, never deleted it anywhere, took it off your spreadsheet. So there's just multiple things that can happen. And again, everyone runs their business differently. So these are things that I'm facing. You may not have any of these problems. So those are the issues and the resolutions that you need to make. Once that is done and everything is cleaned up and you've fixed all your errors and you've, done all of those computer cross-checking things, you're basically done with your inventory. And at that point in time, at that snapshot, everything should be correct. And now it's about going forward and making sure that those issues don't happen again. So this leads me to my lesson learned, because for me, even though I've gotten quicker at the process is still taking a good amount of time because of all of these errors that have come up. So I'm really trying to figure out how I can not only work with my VA to fix those issues, but also to catch those issues earlier. And I saw this a long time ago from Luke from Endless Entrepreneurs, who I got a lot of great ideas from his content. He's not doing reselling content anymore as far as I understand. He's in his real estate world, but big shout out to him because he's similar to me and I'm similar to him in that you want to find the most efficient process possible and how can I make this more efficient? How can I improve this? And I followed a lot of my inventory things from him. And one of the things that I'm going to start doing now, it's taken me a little while to get to this point where I realized, you know what, he was probably right, is he would do an inventory basically all throughout the year and have it be a process that happens continuously. And that basically means like taking a bin at a time, whether it's a bin a day, a bin a week, a bin a month. It depends on how large your inventory is, I would think. And constantly be reviewing it and cross-checking it one bin at a time, ongoing throughout the year, rather than doing it all at once. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it all at once at the end of the year also, but you would cut down a lot on issues if you caught them periodically throughout the year, then waited till the end of the year to have all of these issues kind of present themselves. So I think that's what I'm going to start doing. I have a lot of bins. It fluctuates from time to time, of course, of how much I have in my inventory. But I think I will try to do a bin a week. I don't know exactly when I'm going to set that. I have to determine in my schedule of tasks for the week what day I'm going to set. And I'll basically take a bin home with me and cross-check it against the inventory spreadsheet and then bring the bin back. And that way, once a week, I could rotate through my bins and see what's what. I do think, because I'm on a chronological system, the oldest things are going to, if they're correct now, they're probably going to be correct months from now because I'm not adding anything else to that bin. I'm just adding bins to the end of the system numerically. So for you, if you reuse numbers and the items in your A bin are always changing, I think this would be even more beneficial for you because you're always going to be in a state of flux in that A bin. Whereas for me, anything in my 1000 bin isn't going to get touched again. It's only going to get sold off and condensed down. So if I have a bin, with 1,000 and then a bin with 2,000, let's just say 1,000, and this is the 2,000 bin, this is the 3,000 bin, I'm going to keep adding 4,000 bin, 5,000 bin, 6,000 bin. I'm going to keep adding back here. I'm not going to be adding anything else to the 1,000 bin. In fact, as things sell off, the 1,000 bin is going to get combined with the 2,000 bin when they can all fit in one bin. So they're not getting added to, they're only getting subtracted from. So if they're okay now, they shouldn't be un-okay later, if that makes sense. And that's another reason why I like the chronological system in conjunction with how you do the inventory, because a lot of problems kind of solve themselves by not reusing numbers and going back into those bins unless you're just condensing it down as things sell off. So I hope that is not too confusing. It sounds confusing to me right now as I'm saying it out loud, but it makes sense to me. And I'm really just excited about sharing the things that I find that save me time, because I may be a little bit farther along in my reselling journey than you at this point. I don't know the people that watch. I don't know if you're all new or you're seasoned sellers or what, but I just share where I'm at with my business. And this may be something that you've well past figured out. This may be something that you're currently dealing with. And this may be something that you're not yet ready to get to because you only have, 3 bins of inventory. So, my biggest thing that I always tell people is plan to be bigger than you are and set those systems up now, because I could tell you from experience that I've wasted a lot of time redoing systems because I didn't plan to be bigger. And so, but then it ended up happening, and now I'm like, oh, now I have this problem, and that's why this system doesn't work anymore, because now I have this system and this size problem. So I say all of that to you kind of more to the new seller that, eventually you may have 50 bins or eventually you may have 20 bins or whatever. And the more bins you add, the more need you have for systems like this and processes and logical ways to do it. Otherwise, you'll just be dealing with this stuff for forever. So, like I said, the big learning lesson is to catch mistakes throughout the year, resolve them quickly throughout the year, so that at the end of the year, when you're doing this giant audit, you don't have so much to resolve at the end. You don't have so many things that have been, like, all these not listed things, let's say there's 30 of them, could have been selling all throughout the year if I had figured it out earlier. But now here I am sitting with 30 items on December 29th, which was one of the days that I did the inventory, and none of them have been listed. I mean, sure, I can just add them back in now and that's fine, but for the whole year I had my money tied up in these items and they had no chance of selling because they weren't listed. So if you find that out every so often, I think that's a good thing. Also, because I do my inventory at the end of the year in preparation, for taxes and whatever, it's the holidays, it's right over my mom's birthday, it's right over my husband's birthday, we just had Christmas, the house is like crazy with Amazon boxes and new toys for Geo, and so it's just a hectic time. And if I can make that process even easier and less stressful, the better. So those are all my thoughts on conducting an inventory audit. I would really love your questions on this. I'd really love your feedback because, like I said, I felt like as I was explaining it got a little bit confusing. So like this video on the way out for me, please. Go ahead and leave me a comment. Tell me what you're doing. Do you have a different system? Do you do it once at the end of the year? Do you do it throughout the year? Let me know what you're up to. Ask me your questions because I can always do a follow-up video. If you have not subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to see you again. Thanks so much. Have a great day.